This is episode 127. 127.
Oh, I got it right.
Yeah, you did.
Seddy Bimco, America's foremost revenge-themed podcast, coming at you in your headphones. We're doing a tour of the 50 nifty United States, a local film from each state. We're up to Kentucky, Tim's choice. Kentucky
from 1972.
Yeah.
Asylum of Satan, directed by William Girdler.
That's what I got.
Hey, George, but before we get to the episode, I have an age-old question about revenge.
Ooh,
you love
what
these.
is it, Tim? I do. They're always so funny. They definitely never suck.
Did the bank robbing whale, did he ever get revenge on his partner for deciding to rob the bank on Bring Your Harpoon to Work Day? Bring Your Harpoon to Work Day.
No, don't expect me to laugh.
What?
That's it. Don't expect me to laugh.
It's Seddy Bimco Part 2, The Revenge. The show where we create revenge sequels that nobody wanted.
It's Seddy Bimco, just like it says in the announcement at the beginning of the song that producer Lee says. I'm Tim Hamilton. And with me
I'm George O'Connor, New York Times best-selling author and illustrator.
We both draw graphic novels and comics, but one of us draws New Yorker cartoons. We'll let you figure it out.
And one of us was a clue on Jeopardy. And here's a hint. It wasn't me. Tim, where were you when you were a clue on Jeopardy?
Where was I when I heard the news?
Yeah.
Pennsylvania? Philadelphia, the city of love?
Yeah, Pennsylvania. Oh, Pennsylvania.
Philadelphia freedom.
Weird, because we're not doing Pennsylvania this week. Why would you choose Pennsylvania?
I mean Kentucky.
Jesus Christ, Tim.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, and he was the person who texted you?
Yeah, yes, he told me.
Well,
my son,
actually,
you're on Jeopardy.
Let's
get
actually,
right with the Lord. Yeah.
You do need to get, it sounds like you need to be recombobulated. So I actually, I want to address a few things. Folks, we did something that has been almost unheard of in the history of Seddy Bimco. We took a week off. There's a lot of weeks I've missed, but Tim took off a couple. Tim had to go. You went down to, right?
I'll edit that out, but yes, I went there.
Wait, why do you edit it
I'll blank
out?
the word. I don't want to advertise that state. I don't want to advertise that state.
I think you've said enough just by saying that. So are you tanned, rested, and ready now?
Yeah.
How was the trip to?
Yeah.
What did you do with yourself there? I'm going to keep saying so you can't bleep it out every time.
Why are you so curious?
I'm just curious because you never take time off. Maybe you come back with like I personally am excited to come back and record. It's like, we had the extra week off and I'm like, I got to reevaluate some things about the podcast. Tim, I have to tell you something exciting.
Okay.
You know how a lot of times when I take notes, I can't read my own handwriting afterwards and I'm just like, what's going on?
Did you type them finally?
I fucking typed my notes up this week.
Oh my God. I do that every week.
I know you do. And but now I'm like, I'm so fucking prepared. I'm so fucking prepared with facts about Kentucky. I even have a few facts just about Louisville in there. I got facts about the director, about this movie. I have notes about this movie that I'll probably be able to read most of this, although I did look at it right before. My typos are significant and, and awful.
When I type and I type words wrong, I'm always thinking, come on, George wouldn't do this. George wouldn't misspell breakfast. I don't know.
Yeah, but also George types using his fingers, not your folks may not know this. You use your big square toes to type everything.
I do.
So Tim, tell us about the beach. How was it, Tim?
Back to the beach.
Did you see any sexy bathing suits?
Here's what happened. I told you this.
Sexy bathing suits.
As you know, I'm watching Chimp Crazy that George will not watch and my wife will not watch. Every episode is about the search for this missing chimp. It was in a movie with Alan Cumming. That's basically what it's mostly about, but every episode has its own little story of a chimp who ripped someone's face off. So even on me, I'm like, I don't know if I can watch this much longer. Every episode, some horrible story of a chimp getting loose and killing people in the neighborhood. I'm laughing. It's terrible.
I know. So, I read an article about how the series ends.
Don't tell me.
Alan Cumming finds the chimp and the chimp rips his face off. And they're like,
come on.
It's kind of obvious this is good. Nope, it's true. You haven't seen Alan Cumming recently. It's because he's faceless now.
So, at this get together, it was my wife's friend's birthday. I'm not going to go into it. A bunch of people I didn't know, families, and they're from a state where they want to watch the football game. So they're watching a football game. So I don't care if they watch football. It's the beach. I can go do whatever.
Is it Kentucky?
Maybe.
Is it
Nebraska? At night they're watching the football and we're all eating. So
you were eating the football?
Yeah, eating food. There were young teens there, by the way, like 30 of them. So every time the food went on the table, the adults are like, "Oh God, please leave us some," because teenagers, they just go in and just pile their dishes with all the food on the table.
Yeah, wait, I'm sorry. First off, the fact that there was kids there sucks. The second off, the fact that there was 30 of them,
they were fine. They played on the beach.
30 kids. That's scary. Yeah. That's too many people, because if you figure there's 30 kids there, at least some of them come from families where there's two parents present. How many fucking people were down there?
Well, there was less adults. We were outnumbered, but
that's terrifying. I don't like this, Tim. I don't like this at all.
You're interrupting my story. So
okay, I'm sorry.
They are watching football, and one of the teenage kids, he shouted out, "Oh yeah, this team, I don't know who it was, they got a pet lion for a mascot." And someone else was like, "Yeah, that's cool." And I realized now I had worn my sunglasses outside and I was wearing them inside. So I'm in there with my sunglasses.
Because you're a cool guy.
And I said to them, "No, it's not cool. Don't keep wild animals as pets." It just came out of my mouth before I could think about it. And everybody stopped for a minute and stared at me. They didn't really say anything. And they just went back to cheering for the football game. That's really what happened.
A mental switch is thrown. They're like, "Let's choose to ignore the strange sunglass man." And you're like yelling, "But no, chimp crazy. You got to understand. You're going to lose their face."
I tried.
Yeah. You know what? Probably if you're stupid enough to have a pet lion, like the people who made previous Seddy Bimco film Roar, you should be prepared for a few trips to the hospital.
You should.
Yep.
Let's take a break.
So,
from that story. I'm going by all the stuff I was going to talk about. I'm like, we're going to talk about Kentucky for too long, I think. But do you have anything else to say before we talk about Kentucky? I don't know why you're so curious about me going to the beach.
Because you've never done it before, Tim.
I've been to the beach many times.
And let's do some Kentucky facts, because Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky, is where this movie was shot. So Kentucky is the 15th state in our union. Does it get to be one of the 13 original colonies, suckers? Maybe it was and just lagged his feet. I don't know. I think it was part of Virginia. So in a sense, it was part of it, but whatever. It's two senators, or Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul. So,
oh my God.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's population. Nice there, yeah, but there's only 4.5 million people in Kentucky. And those 4.5 million people, which is less than the population of the city you and I live in, they have inflicted upon the rest of us Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul. So Kentucky, I throw this challenge out to you. Do better. I'll tell you something else about Kentucky. It's the birthplace, did you know this, Tim, of both Abraham Lincoln and Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy. Yeah,
I didn't know
they were
that
born
fact.
within 100 miles of each other, within Kentucky, and within a year apart. And like you could see, that's like a pivotal moment for Kentucky, right? It's like you could be the state of Lincoln or the state of Jefferson Davis. And then we look at Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul. I think we know which way they went. Yeah. So I'm going to stop picking on them for this. I'm going to read you some actual cut and paste facts off of the University of Louisville's 50 Facts About Kentucky website. You ready for this?
50 facts. Okay.
Yeah. This first one, 50, I'm not. No, gosh, no. I picked and choose.
This podcast right now.
No, people are turning in. They're like, "Yay, George is telling us Kentucky facts."
Oh, this is going to be a list. All right, here we go.
Well, this is real facts, though. So don't get your hopes up. This first one I chose for you because this is the most old-timey thing I've ever heard in my life.
Okay. I'll be a judge of that.
Okay. The town of Corbin was the birthplace of old-time movie star Arthur Lake, whose real surname was Silver Lake. He played the role of Dagwood in the Blondie films of the 1930s and blanks. They don't know when they stopped.
I know he is.
Lake's parents were trapeze artists billed as the Flying Silver Lakes.
Yeah, I remember that actor. Yeah. You've never seen live action Blondie, George?
No. No, because I'm not actually secretly hundreds of years old. Let's see. Fort Knox is in Kentucky.
That's right.
Yep. Joe Bowen from Kentucky. holds the world record for stilt walking endurance.
Nice.
He
How
walked
far?
3,008 miles on stilts between Bowen, Kentucky, apparently named after him, and Los Angeles, California.
Ooh. Did he get a break?
No, the entire time.
Oh, his feet would fall off.
Yeah, he would have died. He must have had many breaks. That would take months. It takes like a week to drive across the state. Now, this is the first of what I call the...
He rested in people's tree houses, George.
Oh,
that's how he got around.
That would be
yes.
a pretty sweet movie. He never actually touched the ground the whole time.
Walks the tree house to tree house.
Tree house to tree house.
You know what's in those tree houses, George? Old issues of Playboy. And I won't. We'll get to that.
Tim, it always comes to Playboy with you. These are the first of a couple what I call sour grapes facts, because these are funny.
Okay. We'll see.
The radio was invented by a Kentuckian named Nathan B. Stubblefield of Murray in 1892. It was 3 years before Marconi made his claim to the invention. That's one.
I was going to say Marconi.
Yeah, I know. Everybody knows that. And this one, Kalen's restaurant in Louisville claims to have invented the cheeseburger in 1934, although a Denver drive-in called Humpty Dumpty's patented a year later.
Humpty Dumpty's. I remember Humpty Dumpty's.
That's the one where they sat on a wall, right?
Yes. You went and got the food from them.
Yeah. And then they'd fall off and then the king's horses and men would come out and stuff.
Maybe, if you want a prize.
I think it's funny for both of those. Post-it notes are manufactured exclusively in a city in Kentucky called Cynthiana.
Post-it notes.
Duncan Hines was a real person from Kentucky.
I knew that.
As was Colonel Sanders.
What did Duncan Hines look like? What do you think he looked like?
A gooey chocolate cake.
Yeah.
I think he was. I think he was like a pleasantly plump middle-aged man who walked around completely nude but covered his entire body head to toe in chocolate frosting.
Maybe his cousin was the Hines that created the ketchup, I think. Duncan Hines and other Hines.
Maybe. And his wife's name was Bee Hines.
I was just going to say they were the Bee Hines.
The Louisville Slugger is named after the famous serial killer. The Louisville Slug.
Is that that's a sour grapes?
It's fake. Yeah, it's just no. The sour grapes were the guy who invented the cheeseburger and the guy who invented the radio. From Jeffrey B. Jakusik's website, I have a general history of Cincinnati and northern Kentucky streetcars. Now, I was confused by the northern Kentucky bit of this, but Cincinnati is right on the border of Ohio and Kentucky. So there's just a region that's called northern Kentucky, which has a lot of city stuff in it because it's across the water from Cincinnati. The first streetcar in Kentucky, horse-pulled, arrived in 1864. It went electric in 1888. In between, they tried steam cars for like a hot minute, but you would love this, Tim. It was loud and made the horses get spooked, and many people were killed. So,
why do I love that? Were they actually run over by the trolley car, or just horses?
The way it was phrased makes it sound like maybe the horses. Anyway, people got killed by streetcars, so just be happy.
64 after the Civil War, they built it.
Yeah, and then steam happened. I forget. I didn't write down the date because it was like literally 1 year they had steam, and it ended so poorly with everyone dying. Let's see. In the manual, elevators, as you know, I always like to say first elevators.
Ooh, yeah.
I found this amazing article. It was dated February 27th of this year.
Oh.
Kentucky's last manually operated elevator may be removed. Turns out in 1929, the Commodore condominiums in Louisville, which is like a 14 or 15 story building, they were having a vote to determine whether or not to remove the manually powered elevator and the guy who runs it 5 days a week. And I found a follow-up article March 1st. They voted to replace it. So that's the end of that. Yeah.
They just want to get rid of that guy who ran it, right?
Yeah. Well,
he probably
imagine
he always talked about the days that he was on Star Search.
Tell me more about it.
He never won. Well, he sang song. He sang his version of The Long and Winding Road.
Why that? Why not an elevator song? Sing something about going up and down or something.
Because he's tired of the elevator. He wants to go down a windy road.
I'll tell you one thing. That guy spends all day in the elevator. You know what he does? That guy definitely farts in an elevator.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Can you imagine how awful is that? You live on the 14th floor, and every time you leave your house, you'd be like, "Gotta go see Charlie to get out, or walk down or up these 14 flights." And you go in there, you're carrying a bunch of groceries. You got your snot-nosed kid hanging onto you, screaming. You've had a rough day, and you walk in, and Charlie's just cheesed the mother of all beefers, and you got to stand in that funk.
Where do you come up with this, George?
You're the one who's talking Star Search.
What's that got to do with buttons?
But elevators.
You know something funny about elevators?
What?
When I went to school the first time in Pittsburgh, I got a job as an intern at a ad agency. It was just run by two guys. They were just like back when you could do all the ads in the city for the newspapers. And the building was only like 4 stories tall, and it had an elevator with an elevator operator. A little man hunched over, had a chair.
Come on.
He did. But the thing was, I was kind of green and new, and the guys that worked there called him Igor behind his back. It's like they laughed. Their mother was the secretary. She called him Igor. They just because he was like a little man hunched over, didn't talk to us. I thought it was mean as a kid. I'm like, come on.
It is mean. Did he steal a criminal brain?
He might have. I don't know where he went at night.
Yeah. Now, this is the part I'm really excited about, Tim.
Oh, God.
As you know,
21 minutes.
Shut your face. As you know, every single week when we do a state, I talk about the cryptids. Kentucky is the motherlode of cryptids.
I believe that.
No, you don't understand, Tim. This is home to the Mothman. You know, Point Pleasant, the Mothman.
Yep. I know
That's
Mothman.
He's like, I guess if A-list is Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster, he's like B+. He's a big name.
Yeah.
And then the Kelly Hopkinville goblin spree happened there, where a bunch of like yokels were held up in their cabin while they were attacked by little glowing green men.
That's right.
That's like one of my favorite stories. One of the bases for, I think, E.T. in its earlier versions.
Really?
Where they rewrote it extensively. Yeah. There was a creature there called Sheep Squatch, who is a giant white-furred bear-like creature with horns. That's exciting.
That is. Why is there no movie about that?
Because there probably is, but you know what? We'll probably do it eventually. It's probably on, Tubi, like most of the movies we watch.
There's
Tim,
Mitch
this is
McConnell.
the home.
Don't forget
There's Mitch McConnell. Yeah. He's a half man, half turtle, and he's not a ninja, but he does have the ability to stop moving and to hold up important legislation.
Yes.
There is the Bearilla.
Oh.
Which you would think would be half bear, half gorilla, but inexplicably reading about it has the body of a bear and head of a wolf. So it's like, Kentucky, what's going on? Kentucky is home of the Kentucky Meat Shower, where there was a county in Kentucky where like just regurgitated meat was thrown over and nobody knew where it came from. Like it fell from the sky. And scientists say it was from vomiting vultures, but that's a lot of vomiting vultures.
What does the Smithsonian say? Because I would believe
Smithsonian says they say if they hear you, don't even mention their name because they'll come and grab this away because they don't like giants. So they definitely say it's not giants. Oh, and this is the one you'd be most excited about, Tim. The Pope Lick Monster.
Okay, now why is it called that?
Because he licks the Pope, of course.
No, is it a frog? Whenever the Pope and they lick it to get high.
No, whenever the Pope comes to America, this monster runs out of the woods, tackles him on the ground, and licks him all over. No, he's called, I guess Pope Lick is actually a place down there. The Pope Lick monster is actually like a goat man, like a satyr. He's interesting in that every year people die looking for him. Because there's this one train. This is true. This is fucking sad. It's happened like 3 people have died in the last 2 years of this. There's a train trestle you're supposed to go out on to look for him. And apparently you go on the train trestle and there's no real way to tell if the train's coming until you're it's really big. And so people keep getting out there and
it's like
falling
that
off
scene
and
from
dying.
Stand By Me, right?
Yeah. And then there's the other scene. The Pope Lick monster comes out and he vomits blueberries on them for hours on their corpses.
No, what's that a scene from?
That's also from Stand By Me. Remember the pie eating contest? Yeah.
Yes.
And then I just want to wrapping up all my Kentucky because this is a lot. I get.
Yeah, this is a lot.
I'm just going to say the reason there's so many cryptids in Kentucky and like so many famous cryptids is probably because Kentucky is where bourbon was invented.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, enough said. All right.
And blood. So, George?
Yep.
You hear that? That's my Kentucky facts. I'm just getting rid of them.
Good.
We're moving on.
You want to talk any trivia about the movie?
Oh, wait. The Everly brothers were from Kentucky. I just want to say that. Shout out to them. I like to do
Shout out to
bands.
Everybody.
And
Yep.
Cage the Elephant is a newer band. They're from Kentucky. I just saw them. Shout out to Cage the Elephant.
Is it Cage spelled with a K?
No, they moved to Britain. They're from here. Is that what you're going to say? They're from Britain?
Yeah, that's what I was
the
going to say.
British invasion. Yeah, they fled Kentucky. They were chased away. Oh, we usually place our movies. You said this in time by stating how many years before or after Star Wars they came out.
Yeah,
this one was made in 1972. That's 5 years before Star Wars. 2 years after the Beatles broke up. 16 years before the Traveling Wilburys formed. There you go. There's some facts.
Wait.
I did the math, George. Yeah, 16 years.
All right, I have a little bit of facts about this one.
This movie.
It's 1972, directed by William Girdler. Unlike many people, it's his first movie. Unlike many people who we end up doing on Seddy Bimco, he actually had a pretty significant career. He did 3 in a Meat Hook, which is a movie I've somehow seen. He did Manitou, which is also a movie I've somehow seen.
And
he did
MST 3000.
I don't think so. I think that was actually a movie I watched when I was like a younger person because I was into Native American mythology, and a Manitou is a creature from that.
Gotcha.
The weird one, though, is Grizzly, which I thought I saw as a Seddy Bimco film. Then I realized we actually saw the inferior Claws. Grizzly is also a Jaws ripoff starring a bear, but this one was apparently very successful. It's like the 6th highest grossing movie of the year it was released.
There was a sequel made, but never released.
Really?
So like lately, yeah. Because they filmed it illegally. It's a whole other story. I forget which country, like Hungary. And they didn't get the right.
Oh, so it had nothing to do with him, or it was just they took the name because it was Here's the sad thing. This guy died very young.
Yeah.
He died at 30 in a helicopter crash while scouting out locations in the Philippines for a movie about drug runners. Yep. And that's sad because, like, I will say, as a little bit of spoilers, this movie was very cheap. Oh, Tim, can we play George's Currency Kerner, The Only Time?
Okay. We got money for it. Here you go.
The budget. Play it. Play it. I don't hear it. The budget. George's Currency Kerner. The budget in 1972 was $50,000 for this film. Tim, can you guess what that would be today?
About $1 billion.
You are very wrong.
Okay.
It is $376,550.24.
Oh, it's worth that much. Yeah.
That's what the spending power of 50,072 is.
Oh, sorry. I misunderstood. I was going up. You're going down. When I go up, you go down.
And the only other thing I want to share about this movie is I was on IMDb double checking to make sure it was filmed in Kentucky because Tim has a history of not getting this correct. And there's a trivia section, and this is the first piece of trivia that appears on IMDb. You ready?
Okay.
I'm going to read it in the voice of the person who wrote it.
I read it.
Carla Borelli originally agreed to do some nudity when she signed on to act in this film, but refused to do the nudity at the last minute while this movie was being shot.
I read that.
Yep. I was delighted that was called out. All right, let's talk about the movie.
And I also read that, I don't know if you want to get there, but there's a woman killed in a pool of snakes that she didn't want to do the snake scene. That was her sister.
I bet she didn't want to do it and catches her sister.
Anyway, we'll get to that scene.
Okay.
Start off with this honky tonk song I already played. That's the theme.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's a good movie. He made the music himself.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Girdler did. A very talented guy.
It plays through the whole movie.
He did 3 songs.
Oh, wow.
There's 3. Lucinia's theme, and the other ones I forgot what they're called. I think it's Dr. Spector's Boogie and Dunkin's Donuts. I don't know. But there are 3 songs. God.
So this starts up with just an ambulance. And George, if any movie needs a better print, I mean, the darks are so dark in this movie. I could not. I don't know if you saw it on YouTube. It's just so dark. I couldn't see what was going on half the time. But I mean, this ambulance is in the dark, drives up to a house.
I did, and on my computer, I just turned the brightness up, and it was actually okay.
No, don't say that.
Did you not?
No.
Tim.
And this movie really needed closed captioning, but it was not available.
Wait,
God.
I had closed captioning too.
You did not.
I did. I even have jokes about it because there was parts where there were just sound effects and it would say stuff like music or static.
You're lying.
Tim, I swear to you, I will read it because I have legible notes this time.
Uh-oh, you ruined my joke then. I'll say it later. Anyway. Okay.
Nice.
They take her in, but here's what I noticed. They take her
There's
out of
a woman being carried in.
ambulance.
We should say, yeah.
Yeah, to a house, an asylum, and they carry her up the steps. There's no elevator in this place. No elevator, George.
No. Why?
Strapped to a Gertie.
Because there's only one elevator in that one condominium.
That's right.
In Louisville. Yeah, and
we all know elevators are the work of the devil.
Yep, so which is weird because surprisingly, this movie is called Asylum of Satan. Maybe Tim throwing this out. Maybe it's a competing devil. At the end of the movie, there was a list of devil names. Maybe this was like, this is a Belial place, and it was like, I'm sorry, this is an Asmodeus only elevator.
You're going way too deep.
You're going too deep. Can I say my first quotes?
List? Oh, yeah.
Immediately right off the bat, I'm noticing that this movie is better filmed than I expected.
Really?
My second comment is I am genuinely surprised this movie has close-ups. Because I thought this was going to be like a real fucking... We've seen some turds. There's a lot of mid-level stuff. And like that opening bit where you're just seeing a person being carried, like, I'm like, oh, it's going to be one of those movies. But right off the bat, when we're introduced to our main character, something Martin, I never called her the first name. I call her Miss Martin the whole time.
Her name is...
Lucina Martin. Yeah.
Lucina Martin.
I catch it much later. Like, she's being given these close-ups. I'm like, oh, and she's actually very pretty. This is Carla Borelli, who wouldn't do nude scenes.
Yes.
I also wrote, lead actress is quite pretty. She's really handing in performance, ... But the performance is bad. Sorry, Carla Borelli.
Sorry, Carla.
You're not being given a lot to work with here.
So she wakes up. She's confused. She sees out the window there's white people in wheelchairs dressed in white. And I want to say just up front for everybody, pretty soon you know what this movie's about. But all the stuff that happens in between, nothing to do with... Never connected. Like, there's people on the lawn dressed in white in wheelchairs. Who are they? We never know. Just spoilers. We never know.
We learn at the end.
Okay, maybe a little bit. We'll get to a lot of things that we don't know.
Tim is being very delicate here, and I'll be less delicate. My note is, first off, you're forgetting that she has a conversation with the lead nurse, who is hilariously... That's before she wakes up and looks out.
George, I call it the female nurse, who is obviously a man. The way Monty Python would dress as men.
I wrote it's kids in the hall are doing a horror film.
I know.
It's this. I was confused, and I actually wrote that lead nurses or head nurse is hilariously a man in drag and dubbed with a woman's voice. Although as the movie went on, I became convinced that it was actually just an actor doing a very good female voice.
I think it's Dr.
And it's
Spector.
The same actor as Dr. Spector, who we won't meet yet. But we will hear his name because Lucina is just yelling. The nurse informs Dr. Spector, just requiring you be kept here at the asylum, and she's like, Dr. Spector, but my doctor is Dr. Nolan. And then they finally drug her, and
George,
then she wakes up.
She kept saying, "See, this is why I need." Sorry, closed captioning. I thought she kept saying, "I need Dr. No One." I was like, "No one." She kept saying it. I thought for sure she's saying, "I need Dr. No One."
That would be very much like the Odyssey, where it's like Polyphemus the Cyclops is like, no one is blinding me. They're like, good. That's good that no one is blinding me.
Good one.
See, folks, we are a literary theme.
Mythology.
Yeah, we're smart. You might tune into some podcasts, certain
I will make it go.
Bat and Spidery type podcasts, where they just make these kind of oafish statements. They just talk about farts and whistles the whole time. No, we talk about Greek epic poetry.
Let's not mention the lawsuit.
Right. So let's get back to the story. This is when she wakes up, looks at the window, sees the people in wheelchairs. Tim doesn't mention this. They're all dressed they look like they're the fucking Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah, or none.
They're all in white robes with hoods. Yeah.
Lucinda, another man comes in who I think is Dr. Spector pretending. Lucina, I think is Dr. Spector pretending to be another doctor who tells her to comb her hair.
No, because they actually in scenes together later.
Oh, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah.
She has to comb her hair.
But at this point, we still haven't met Dr. Spector, so it makes sense. I just want to say this guy is rocking a nice stash, and this guy is so nebbishly looking. It's like, this is some prime 70s looking shit right here.
I loved all the clothes.
They go to the cafeteria of this place where she meets some other groovy 60s looking chicks. There was like an old lady. Yeah, there's the old lady
George,
at the table.
It's like the Wizard of Oz. There's a woman who can't talk, a man who can't talk, a woman who can't walk, and a man who I messed that up. Oh, a woman
Man
who can't
talk,
see.
Woman who can't see. I caught none of that watching
And
the first time.
Go to Dr. Spector and get.
Well, they've all been getting treatment there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is my interpretation. I'm not saying I'm right, George.
At all the other tables are a bunch of the Klans people. And she's talking to these people, like being like, I didn't even register the mute guy was there, so whatever.
Yeah.
And she's talking to him. Yeah, he's not really even a character. And she's like, have you ever talked to those other people? They're like, no, never. So she pretends to fall and like go to another table and gets up there. And we see a close up of one of these Klans people's hand. Yes. And it looks like hot dog hands.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, that was pretty weird. I assume they've been horribly burned at one point.
But the weird thing is that her and her friends are eating, and all the rest of these people in white have one egg on their plate. She's like, why do they get one egg and we get all this? And the lady in the wheelchair says, don't ask so many questions. You didn't see they all had one egg?
I did. I'm just talking about, like, it's just like this whole scene was weird.
Well, you know why they had one egg, George?
Oh, what's the list?
I figured it out.
Okay, let's hear the list.
I can't wait. People dressed like the Klan in the wheelchairs. They each had one egg because it reminds them to get an egg extension on their insurance warranty. And it reminds them of the existence of the devil. And
it reminds them to seek an exit from this movie and this series of jokes.
George, it reminds them that if there's a fire, there's only one emergency exit. So,
all right, yeah.
He beat me to it.
And the list continues on, etc., etc. See what I did there?
Yes, you did.
All right.
Also,
so now,
one egg is known as the Satan's brunch. Sorry.
Is that the bad egg?
Yep. Ironically, two eggs is known as the Cyclops lunch. So
wait, how do you not call it one egg is known as a deviled egg?
Tim.
Tim!
I take these left turns and no one sees coming.
Yeah. You don't even see him coming. This is why you're not allowed to drive. All right. So now we cut away from the hospital for the first time to another mustachioed, nebbish-looking guy who kind of looks like Meathead from All in the Family. I literally thought he was the second Doctor.
Yeah, he was. We see him walk down an escalator, light a cigarette. It's a long scene.
He's supposed to, this. I love it too because we are supposed like they never show an airport, but like it's close up on him as he's walking along a nondescript gray wall, and they just play like next flight to Cincinnati.
Right.
I'm like, oh, they're really making us think, and like so he's pretending to be an airport. This is the part I didn't write the note at the time because I was too busy laughing about this, but he's on a phone call. Was he on a cell phone somehow?
Oh no, he goes to a phone booth.
He does go to a pay booth. Okay,
yeah, pay booth.
It was one of those things where like I was recording the notes afterwards. I'm like, wait a second, that makes no fucking sense. So he's on a phone call, and we realize he somehow knows who Miss Martin, who we haven't gotten her first name yet. They just call her Miss Martin at this point.
Yes.
He knows her in some way. She's missing, and she was taken from, and this is weird, because he certainly seems to say the hospice.
Yeah, it was odd.
Which this is not the only time in the movie they say the hospice. Which
really? I didn't notice it again.
Yeah, and this is actually why, Tim, I put on the closed captioning and rewound a little bit because I wanted to see this. And the closed captioning said something totally insane. I forgot. It didn't say it said no word. It was like she's in the hot pants or something. Like closed captioning, you suck. But we realized somebody
it was the 70s.
is looking
He thought
for
she was in the hot tub.
Baby. Or yeah, there's a lot of stuff it could have been. But I was thinking maybe she was secretly dying. Spoiler, she's not. We go back to the hospital, the asylum, and Miss Martin finally meets Dr. Spector.
You missed, just so people know the plot. He's calling the doctor and he finds out she's been shipped off to Pleasant Hills. Yeah, and he's like, who did that? Who told her to do that? Why would she do that? And so he's her boyfriend looking for her.
Yeah, that's a little bit later where that part happens, but.
Well, he was on the phone. He's like, what? She got shipped.
No, he goes and meets Dr. Nolan, and that's when he finds that out.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Tim.
It doesn't matter.
So we meet Dr. Spector, who's like this total beardo. I actually wrote he looks like Satan.
Great pasted on goatee.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I think in the movie, it literally is pasted on because he does that quick code change at the end. I'm like, come on. Because as Tim mentioned up front, this is the same guy who is doing like the Monty Python level female act at the beginning.
And he pretends to be more people. He's very talented.
Yeah, he has 3 roles at least, maybe more, because maybe he was good enough I didn't recognize him as other people. He drops that he is a big fan of Lucinia's.
Yeah, so now
and has seen her many times in concerts. So I'm like, oh, she's like a pop star, but I guess she's actually like a classical music performer.
Boring.
Yeah. And then he says she keeps saying, Dr. Nolan's my doctor. Why am I here?
Right.
And Dr. Spector's like, you had a breakdown, and that's why you're here. So now you have to take off all your clothes and wear this sheet. I'm like, what? And she just does. He leaves the room, but it's actually a different nurse. A nurse just stares at her as she's taking her clothes off, this must have been the news scene she agreed to do, and they didn't. Then was like, no.
Yeah.
So we don't see anything.
We don't see nothing.
But you know who does see something?
Yes.
We pan into the medicine cabinet.
It looks like
Dr. Spector's eye.
Did it look like he just chipped away at that with the screwdriver? It's his office. He could have made a better peephole.
Now, Tim, I have never had I won't say pleasure. I've never had the occasion to stare at an undressed person through a hole in the wall. But I feel like the way he did it, you would see that immediately, right? That was like a giant hole in the wall.
It was. It was a big hole in the wall. Yeah. I mean, somebody would notice that. Yeah. Unless he puts a plug over it, like Norman Bates puts a picture over it, picture of a bird.
Or like Roger Rabbit when they have it's like the light outlet. They plug it back in, and Roger can stick his eyes through, extrude them because he is attuned.
Or like Porky's when they had the hole in the wall of the women's.
What happens in that one, Tim? What goes through the hole in that one?
So anyway, he peeks through.
Yeah, he's staring at her to take her clothes off. Then she's made to take a hot bath. And she's like, how long do you have to do it? And very specific time, 23 minutes.
With the female nurse who is obviously a male nurse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And yeah.
Rubs her back.
I will wash. I wrote down this whole exchange verbatim. I will wash your back for you. No, I can do it. She goes, no, your skin is so lovely. Yes. So soft, so white. Almost as if it was unblemished by death. What?
Oh, I thought she said sin. She said death.
Well, maybe she did. I don't know.
You're reading the closed captions?
Closed captions were really bad in this.
Yeah. A little bit of spoiler. They want her to be pure. I mean, we know what's going on halfway through the movie. But now I just realized what happened. We'll get there. Let me get to the end. Don't say if you figured out what I just realized. I think I just realized. Okay.
Remember this.
Remember this.
Okay.
Remember this.
All right, so then we cut to a scene as we hear some fucking groovy music, and the guy we saw in the quote-unquote airport is driving his car. He is wearing
Porsche.
a groovy... Oh, yeah, it's a yellow Porsche.
That's the director's Porsche.
It's the director's Porsche, yeah.
Yes. Man, he had a Porsche. He had a Porsche. He was not some poor filmmaker. I don't know what he was doing.
I don't know. I don't think he was, Tim. I think he was moderately... I mean, this was his first film.
But his first film, so... Anyway, he got monies from somewhere.
And he immediately, after this film, filmed 3 and a Meat Hook. And in fact, apparently used footage that was cut from this movie in 3 and a Meat Hook.
Okay.
3 and a Meat Hook is a film I rented in high school with my friends because we laughed at the title and we saw
I've never seen it.
No,
is it like
I don't remember
horrific?
Much from it.
Okay.
I remember it. You watch the whole movie for a several second play at the end where you see 3 and a Meat Hook. And we're like, well... I mean, it happened, but maybe feature Seddy Bimco.
I watched the sequel, 3 Amigos.
I just want to mention this guy has an amazing checkered jacket of the sort that was only allowed between 1971 and 1972.
And George, he wore it.
Yeah?
Yeah. He wore it from the airport to his car. And we got his car. He had plaid pants on and a black jacket, I noticed.
Later, yes, he has. I wrote that in my notes. Like later, he's wearing the matching plaid pants to it. Did he?
With a different jacket.
It's insane. Yeah. He shows up at Pleasant.
Anyway.
Wait, he got drunk where?
You know, he got drunk and vomited on the jacket. I don't know.
Oh, that's
blah,
probably
blah,
what happened.
Story.
Yeah. Because he was driving, and it was the 70s, so it's safe to assume he was drunk.
Yes.
He pulls up to Pleasant Hill. So you're right, Tim. He probably did know about Pleasant Hill a little bit at this point.
They've heard of it.
he knocks on the door, and the doctor, who I thought was the same actor as him, answers the door, proving they're not the same person.
Right.
And he tries to slam the door, and he flings the door open and grabs the guy and goes, "You're going to answer a few questions if you start slamming doors in my face."
Yes.
And this is when we finally learn his name is Chris Duncan.
Yep.
He is the fiance of the woman who's been taken there. Her name is Lucina Martin.
Is he Chris Duncan Hines?
He is Chris Duncan Hines, yes.
Okay.
And Lucina Martin is better known as the Louisville Slugger.
How's this all come together?
Yeah, it's just fucking weird. It's Kentucky, man. It's Kentucky. Everything's tightly meshed.
So
Dr. Spector finally comes down, and he's like, "You can't see her. It'll undo all the work."
We don't have visiting hours here.
Yep.
We do not have
And he's
visiting hours.
That's a good impression. And Duncan's like,
many
"How do you not
reasons
have
why."
visiting?
Well, let me tell you the reasons why. I'm tired of all the visitors who keep stealing misprinted Pleasant Hill stationery that says Satan Worship Hill.
Wait,
And
Tim,
I'm tired.
was that stationery, was it actually on Post-it notes, which are exclusively made in Kentucky?
Yes, it was on Post-it notes. I'm tired of visitors always asking about the bloodstained knives on the floor.
On the floor.
And also,
Weird.
the
Yes.
visitor waiting room is out for repairs. Well, those were his reasons.
That was a good stealth list, Tim.
I snuck it in.
I think it's the first time you've ever done a list in a voice, too.
Yeah, first time.
Yep. That was good. So as Dr. Spector turns away, he runs away. Watching from the window, Lucinia sees him, and she raps lightly on the window like an idiot. It's like,
throw
lady.
a chair through that window.
Or just knock with like a normal human strength. She's like flailing lightly. I'm like, you deserve to be kidnapped by Satan.
She never saw the ending of The
Star
Graduate.
Wars.
The Graduate. I'm like, come on. Didn't you see The Graduate? Bang on that window.
Wait, what is the character's name in The Graduate who he bangs on?
Making me
It's
forget.
not Mrs. Robinson. It's,
No, that's the woman.
yeah.
I think he's Jackie Robinson. Never mind.
Hey, by the way, welcome to the podcast, all our listeners who are over 65 years old, which I assume is all three of you. Now, this is when Duncan goes to see the famous Dr. Nolan, who we finally get to see. And this is, like Tim mentioned, now he's wearing the pants from his checkered suit.
Yes.
He's like, once again, Duncan says hospice instead of hospital, meaning that I assume that the filmmakers didn't know the difference.
Nope.
Dr. Nolan is surprised to hear she's in an asylum.
He's in a wheelchair, by the way. I just wanted to explain the scene.
Yeah, ableist.
I'm just explaining the scene.
Yeah, he is in a
You
wheelchair.
won't mention him. You want to pretend he doesn't exist. He's in a wheelchair.
I don't think it is pertinent to this. Tim, I'm
Anyway.
going to mention the mobility of every single person in this movie going forward. So Duncan, who
Does
has
Chris have two legs? See you bye.
Chris has... Wait, Chris? Who's Chris?
Chris is the boyfriend of...
Oh, you're right. It is Chris Duncan.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about our friend Chris, who never listens to the show. Hi, Chris. Chris also our friend who never listens to the show. Have you ever noticed? He's got two legs, too.
He's bipedal. Right?
That's. I mean, I was looking on his LinkedIn portfolio. It says Chris, who never listens to our show, and it says bipedal dad of two. I'm like, way to go, Chris. You. So
he goes to see the doctor.
Nolan is suspicious as fuck. I'm just gonna say this because first he's like, she can't be in an asylum. How did that happen? And then after a few more seconds of talking, he admits she knows she's in an asylum because her father arranged for her to be transferred to Pleasant Hills.
In a telegram.
In a telegram, yes, which I assume that's anachronistic. And Duncan is like, Doctor, her father died when she was 12 years old. And the fucking Dr. Nolan's reaction is, are you sure he's dead? It's like, what are you, the worst doctor in the world? So this guy gets a fucking telegram from someone claiming to be her father, putting her into a insane asylum, apparently forgets about it. And then he's like, doesn't even check to see if this person's alive.
They check on Dr. Spector, and he was 70 years old years ago.
Yeah, he mentions it like, he goes, I have to admit, I was surprised because last time I'd heard of Dr. Spector was 10 years ago, and he was 70 years old then.
Yeah.
And so, like, this guy Nolan is just the worst doctor in the world. He's just a bad person. So Duncan has that info now.
So back at the asylum, this is where things get... I don't know what's going on. They push the wheelchair woman into a room, and they're like, we're going to cure you now. And she's like,
it's your last treatment. Yeah, she's like, I'm so excited. She gets pushed in the room, and she's like, all the machines are gone. Doctor, what's going on? and then they gas the fuck out of her.
But she falls. Did you see? She falls on the ground, and then rubber spiders are all over her face.
I love it. So, Tim, this is where the closed captioning, whenever the gas goes,
yes.
The closed captioning says applause.
I've seen that.
So I thought you would love this scene because
I did love it.
It has some fucking remedial ass stop motion as these rubber bugs crawl over her. I'm like, this gas has bugs in it?
Rubber bugs, the kind you got out of the gumball machine as a kid. Like the
yeah,
cheapest.
They look... this isn't like the scene in Temple of Doom. Like, this does not look... It's not up to that level.
Or slugs.
Or slug. Even slugs, the forgotten Seddy Bimco.
Yeah, and she dies. There seems to be something in the room nearby watching her. That's why I said the lighting was so bad.
Spectre is in a almost like a confessional booth adjacent to it.
Okay.
It's like a red room, and he's watching through a grate, just watching her die.
So now, we meet Detective Walsh. You want to go there? I love Detective Walsh.
Yeah. Wow, this guy. So Meathead, which is what I'm calling Duncan from now on, he goes to the cops with this new information, and he meets Detective Walsh, who is immediately the biggest dick in the world.
They do that routine where I want to report a kidnapping. Okay, how long has she been missing? Well, she's not missing. She's in an asylum, and he's just scribbling stuff out. Dangnabbit, she's not missing then.
He says, like, who is she? She's like, she's my fiance. It's a whole... Anyway, this guy immediately, like...
The whole routine.
I get being leery of a person coming in, but he's immediately beyond belligerent. He's chewing on a toothpick.
Cleaning his gun.
Did you catch this was the same set as the quote-unquote airport? Just a gray wall with this time they put just cop-looking signs on the wall.
So he won't leave
this is
alone.
Funny to me.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because he actually has some information. He could have come in and explained, so it turns out her doctor was tricked into committing her to here by somebody who was pretending to be her father. He has all this information. He does not convey any of this stuff to Walsh. No. She just, the best he gets out, fucking meathead Duncan is like, I just had a bad feeling about it. Right. And Walsh goes, surely you don't mean for us to raid a place just because you had a strange feeling about it. We'd be raiding every church and funeral parlor if we did.
I know.
I'm like, wow, interesting choice. So despite the fact that he's like a second away from just shooting Meathead in the face, he goes with him to the asylum.
Well, he says, he's too busy, and then he's like, I'm just going to take you out there to show you what a fool you are. So I'm like,
you fucking idiot. You goddamn jerk.
So they find it, and it looks like it's been boarded up for years.
Yep.
And that's when Dr. Spectre shows up as groundskeeper Willie.
Wait, how did you miss this line?
Yeah, what
as
line?
He walks up, he goes,
Wizard of Oz, yeah.
Walsh goes, they're going through the grown over gate, and Duncan's like, what do you think of this? Walsh goes, I think this is the land of Oz, and you're the wizard.
I know. Why do you...
And I paused, I thought about that. I'm like,
I know. He's the
why
Tin
the
Man
wizard?
Or whatever.
Yeah. Wait, or maybe he's the munchkin that hanged himself. Yeah. Why the wizard? Yeah, it was just confusing. And then he also says, when I write my book, you're going to be chapter 1. What does that mean?
I don't know.
What book is this? Are you going to elaborate about your publishing plans?
Is that an old insult we don't know? That's what you said to people on the street?
Maybe. Tim,
when I write
let's
about
bring
you,
that back.
You'll be chapter 1. Yeah, let's say that to people.
We'll get arrested. So, Dr. Spectre shows up as groundskeeper Willie's.
Would you? Closed for years.
Yeah, and Meathead recognizes him.
Yes.
He's like, "You're the doctor," and Walsh is watching him like this crazy person. Meathead starts beating the caretaker up, and Walsh just drags him away.
Yes, to arrest him. Obviously. Yep. So then we go back to Miss Morgan, Lucia.
No, we don't even see that. First, it's just dark. And all the clans people are surrounding this guy on the floor with torches, and they burn him alive.
That? I thought that was Walsh.
That was the mute guy. It was the mute guy.
See, I thought maybe they killed the Walsh, but later he's alive.
I totally get it too. It's only a piece of dialogue later that made me realize that, because I wrote they're burning him. Who was it? Because Tim is right. The movie was dark, and it sounds like his print was a lot darker, or he didn't know how to turn up the light on his thing. It was the mute.
Oh. Yeah,
so they kill him. Now we see Lucy.
And George is like, I don't know. I never paid attention to that guy. He's mute.
You're trying. Oh, wait. Anyway. And let's mention this because Tim has established that he likes to point out the mobility of people. The mute man was able to walk. Yes. Under his own power. Yeah.
But then she wakes up. She's what?
Lucina wakes up.
Yeah. And she goes upstairs. So she always hears creaking and finds a rocking chair rocking by itself. And she also finds an 1803 document. And I wasn't sure what that was. Was that for him being a doctor or Dr. Spector being born?
You're right.
You couldn't see it clearly.
Yeah, she's in her room. There's a weird scream in the hallway which no one reacts to. Oh, also the creepy man nurse was there. But she exits her room because she hears a scratching in the door. She goes upstairs. She leaves room 219, which she's in. She goes to room 319, where there's this empty rocking chair. But like that fucking mutant chases her.
Yeah, there's a guy with he's like Two-Face. He's Two-Face.
He was
Two-Face. I know you're saying that's your sequel.
Batman villain. I was looking at the still just before we started recording. Uh-huh. I think that might be supposed to be the lady who got eaten by bugs.
See, that makes sense because I was like, who is this person? Who is the rocking chair?
It doesn't. Yeah, like why is the rocking chair rocking by itself? Like I'm like, is this going to be a haunted house movie all of a sudden? Like
she dreams of playing the piano. She dreams of being in the woods with Chris when she's wearing a big Mary Tyler Moore hat that she crocheted. This is so 70s. Crocheted hat. Did you know that, George? That she crocheted that?
Well, Tim is jumping ahead here, folks. She runs away from the mutant. She runs into a room that has an altar in it. She's trying to call the phone, and then Dr. Spector comes running with his arms up in the air at her. And
she wakes up, and they're like...
And she wakes up in a room, and they're like, you never left the room. You're going crazy. They just gaslight the fuck out of her.
Yes.
So she's sitting there crying against the window as it's raining, or more likely someone's spraying the outside of the window with a hose. And then we flashback where we see her playing piano for Meathead, and they're taking a walk in the snow with a big crocheted hat.
I said that.
And then they have the worst sex scene I've ever seen where it's just like they're laying there next to a fire and she's like rubbing his mustache.
Well,
did you catch it?
Didn't want to do it. That's what they did in the 70s, George.
And
in a hot tub, usually.
Yeah. And there's a part where she's kissing a bump on him. And I know this sounds dirtier than it is. But it's like, it's not a sexual organ. I couldn't decide from the angle what part of the body it was. It's like he has protuberances on him.
You heard it here first.
Just a bump
is not a sexual organ.
Maybe it was. Maybe, Tim. Maybe I read in reviews this man never acted again. Maybe he's actually not a person. Maybe he was a Ken doll.
Maybe.
Just had a bump. Yep.
If we could do this quickly. Also, the blind lady, they take her swimming and they leave her alone and then they dump snakes in the pool. So.
There's this weird box at poolside. She hears it. She's calling and then like suddenly snakes come in the pool and they're not poisonous snakes. These snakes fucking just eat her. Like it's brutal. And she's going, and I guess that's a scene she wouldn't film. And in case you're thinking it was a weird nudity thing, no, she's wearing like a big old bathing suit, but they bite the shit out of her.
Yep. On the face.
Yep.
Don't keep wild animals as pets, people.
Then we cut back to Duncan, who's with the cop again, Cop Walsh. Walsh is letting him go after some time because he goes, well, the guy never came in to press charges, so I can't hold you. But there's 3 elements about this case that confuse me. 1, the hospital I can't find. 2, the doctor no one knows. And 3, the girl who doesn't exist.
Yep.
Did you do any work at all, Walsh?
I know.
Okay, the hospital is weird. We know she exists.
She's a famous
You're
musician
a bad doctor.
of some sort. Just Google her doctor.
And like, so he's just being, yeah, that's also right. She's fucking famous. That's like being like, yeah. So Duncan leaves and then Walsh suddenly, after being the biggest asshole in every single second this movie's been in, he's like, I don't know, this guy does seem really sincere. He calls this guy Ed on the phone.
Yep.
He goes, just out of the goodness of my heart, don't stop anything. Just check the particulars of this case. So you didn't even check this shit.
No.
So immediately that guy would have gone to whatever the 1970s equivalent of Google is and like, oh yeah, she's this famous fucking song person.
But Chris goes out on his own, of course. And I think he sneaks into the back property of the Pleasant Hills, Chris does. And he
finds his rundown greenhouse. Yeah.
And George, did you see what he found in there?
Well, I thought it was going to be like he wandered into the movie The Bog, but what did he find? It sounds like
1971 issue of Playboy, the greenhouse.
Yep. Who is the centerfold, Tim?
Miss Pampered Greens.
Miss Pampered Greens. What was she
Yes.
into, Tim? Can you read us the descriptions?
Well, her turn-ons were one egg. Her turn-offs were existential crises.
Oh, God, it's all egg puns. Jesus
Her
fucking Christ.
goals, examining murder clues. Her vicing. Yeah, her vicing. Vices.
What does that even mean?
Exiting
Speak English.
through the indoors.
You used exit already. How about her turn off his eczema?
Turn off her eczema, yes. That's it. That's a good issue. Most of it was ripped
What was
up.
her name?
That was all that was left. Miss Pampered Greens. Miss Pampered
Why
Greens.
not an egg name? Just like egg
Green
Lena.
eggs and
I don't
ham?
know.
Come on. You got to think.
Okay. Yep. So he finds a bloody head too, which we don't see it's a bloody head until he brings it to Walsh.
Slams it on his desk. Splat.
Slams it on his desk. Splat. And the guy and Walsh is like, "Where'd you get that?" Still being a bit of a dick. And then
he should have
admits,
put it in a box, right, George? And Walsh could go, "What's in the box?"
Yes.
No, how's he say?
Folks.
What's
folks,
in the
people, what's in the box, folks?
That's a new movie. That's a new movie from 1994. I think.
Making the seldom heard reference to the little known movie Seven. That's why I'm making fun of you because you can't even talk about a severed head these days as someone going, "What's in a box?" Let me tell you. So then Walsh suddenly tells him "Yeah, I called Ed, and it turns out Dr. Spector died years ago." And he was picked up a couple times on devil worship.
I know, devil worshiping charges.
And so Duncan's like,
it's against the law.
You wake up the judge. Whoever it is that gets search warrants around here, you and I are going down to that house right now.
I know.
So we did skip a sweet scene, a short scene where Spector comes to Lucinia and tells her after one last treatment he's going to let her go. So now we are right before the last treatment. And we're in that room with the altar. And Spector is talking aloud, and he says, I kept our pact. The mute was burned. Huh? The blind girl was given to the reptiles and beheaded. And he says, I guess I'll say it because he says that the cripple was given to the insects and you will soon have your sacrifice. And while he's doing this, the whole time he's doing this, he's playing the organ, which is the most evil of all music.
Of course.
Yeah. The nebbish doctor comes in. He's like, she bit me, but she's all ready. And Spector's like, good, because my time is almost up.
That was out of nowhere. She didn't seem like a biter.
No. But all the orderlies carry Lucinda into the room. She's unconscious. She's in the altar room. They have her tied up. Mm-hmm. They tie her up onto the altar. Yeah, all in white. I'm like, suddenly this is Manos, the Hands of Fate, because he's in this black robe in front of the room.
And
the nurse is there first.
Movie of Mr. Weiss.
Cryptic Dark Secrets.
New Lorene's Massacre.
Oh, no.
New Lorene's Massacre. There you go.
Mardi Gras Massacre, everybody.
All right.
Previous Seddy Bimco film, the great Jack Weiss.
And they bring her in for obviously sacrifice. Like I said, if you see this movie, you're like, he's the devil, wants her for sacrifice or something.
The nurse is up there making a speech, and then she pulls off her wig, and she's Spector, which is quite a shtick because, as we mentioned many times, Spector has a full beard. So not only is she pulling off a wig, she suddenly grows a beard. Laughing hysterically, the smoke is billowing out, and then the most hilarious Satan ever appears.
Was he worse than the being that we saw? Was that last week?
Yes, he was far worse than the being. The being was pretty good in some spots, although excessively slimy. This was just it had 4 big horns and kind of like it looked almost like a Chinese dragon in the face.
Yeah, it's like they took a costume and burnt it. It was all bubbly.
Yeah, it glued shit onto it too, like hot dogs.
Yes. It was like a monster from Grar. Or wait, what? Gar. What? Wait, Gwar.
Gwar, the band?
Yes. Not as good as that, but clunky.
No, definitely not. No, not as good as my last 5 Halloween costumes either.
No.
It was really bad. We cut away briefly.
Go ahead.
I would say we cut away briefly to the cops. So many cops, 10 cop cars.
All the cops in Kentucky.
And Duncan and Walsh arriving with groovy chase music playing. We cut back to Satan, who's stumbling through the altar room. Obviously, the actor playing him can't see through the mask, so he's walking like a toddler. It's amazing. What were you going to say, Tim?
I was going to say, here's the part. On my copy, all I could hear Satan say was "unpure," and he keeps talking. I'm like, I have no idea what Satan said. Do you, in the closed captionings, have any idea?
So
Satan was like,
this is
rah, 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 rah.
Closed captioning really shits the bed at this point because I have a note here. It says music, but there's no music playing. And this is not when he's talking. And then Spectre asks Satan if he's happy with the virgin sacrifice. She's screaming, and Spectre says, "Take her for my youth." And Satan, who like you see that he's talking and like his mouth, like which is not articulate, you can see it's vaguely moving. Yeah, and he is saying something in this robot voice, and it's closed captioning had no idea.
He was played by an actor named Cigarette Jones. Just so you know, that's why his voice was like that.
It did sound like that when people have like they have to hold the voice box up.
Oh, that's not what I meant, but.
Oh, okay.
No, you made
I thought
sad.
you were being really rude. Yeah, you made it awful.
Well, actually, it wasn't because of the cigarettes he smoked. It's because he was in the sideshow as a sandpaper swallower.
Sandpaper swallower.
That's why his voice sounded like that.
Oh, nice.
There you go.
Well, he sounds terrible and unintelligible.
Yes.
And what I like, if Tim, you heard I'm pure, that backs up my theory that I think he's mad because she's not a virgin, because we saw the scene where she rubbed his mustache and kissed his bump.
Yeah, but the doctor, which is creepy, the doctor's like, I examined her. She's pure. I'm like, ooh, what kind of exam
The doctor
is this?
says, I examined her every day. Ew.
Oh, I didn't hear him say that.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then Satan just makes smoke and Velaram Spectre and just burns him to crisp.
This is why I was confused. This doctor, how could he not know if she's, well, I thought they picked her because she's pure, and they were unclear how he could make that mistake. But here's what I want to go back to not forget. When he peeked at her through the hole, maybe that was making her impure. She was supposed to be pure for the devil, and he was peeking at her. That's the only thing I can think. He ruined it.
You think by virtue of him seeing her naked made her impure?
Yeah, he was peeking at her all the time.
But why does that affect her? She doesn't even know.
But he's using her.
I think that's him. That's him checking her.
Yeah, that too. Maybe he was. Yeah. I don't want to go where I'm thinking, but yeah, he was probably an abusive person while she was like she was drugged half the time.
Yeah, I think it was more like that. I don't know.
But they never hinted at that.
No,
except for the examining. And
so
peeking.
we're not really sure here, folks. But I think the insinuation is we see that she's definitely not a virgin because she was naked, kissing bumps and rubbing mustaches with
and he couldn't
Duncan
figure that
Hines. Yeah. So whatever. Satan kills Spectre. The groovy cops arrive. Duncan runs in first with no gun. They don't find. There's no Klansman, no devil or anything. And Lucina's not on the altar. She's in the corner. The cops just stand around because the director hasn't told them what to do. And eventually they're like, take her outside.
She wakes up and she goes, but it wasn't a dream. You were there, and you were there, and you were there.
And she looks at Duncan, and you were the wizard.
Yes.
And then she looks at the camera and goes, he's going to be the first chapter of my book. I call it The Wizard of Oz. And it was Stealth's Wizard of Oz movie the whole time.
Oh, I thought she was insulting him.
Nope.
When I write my book, you're going to be chapter 1. He's like, and I don't know what that means.
It's going to have tons of chapters. So for some reason, the cops take her outside. Walsh goes outside. Duncan's the last one to go out. He turns around and he sees Satan and all the Klans people sitting there, and he screams.
The end.
No, it's not, because then he goes out into the cop car and comforts Lucina, and they close up on his dumb face, and we see Satan again.
Did we?
So I guess he's possessed. Yeah, it's almost like a mid-credit scene.
I liked this movie, but I don't know. I liked it, but I lost interest in a lot of places. I thought I'd like it more. It's right up my alley. I did like it.
I came downstairs disquieted, and my wife was like, how was the movie? Was it terrible? I'm like, no.
I think it was kind of terrible.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like the fact that like some parts of this were quite well shot. Like, it was an inexpensive and one would say cheap movie, and that definitely affects some of the stuff. But like, some of these people have Wikipedia entries. Not this movie, but a lot of the people do.
Yeah,
like this was like a semi. This was a movie, the first movie of a filmmaker. He's only 23 when he made it. That clearly had a lot of promise, and there was stuff that was just garbage in it.
Oh,
but, yeah.
But you know what it did? It helped George Lucas, because at the end of these episodes, I often talk about how this movie's like Star Wars.
Well, yeah. This is our new section.
George Lucas, he saw this movie while he was struggling with Star Wars, because he hired Mr. Prowse. If you don't know
David
this,
Prowse, who was the actor who played He was the physical embodiment to Darth Vader. The late James Earl Jones was the voice.
So he hated his voice, and he saw this movie while he was like, didn't know what to do. He's just up late, sees this movie, and he sees, look at Satan, how horrible voice he has with this actor known as Cigarette Jones. And he couldn't understand him. And Lucas was like, maybe I could hire someone else to do the voice. And he realized he could use a different voice for his villain, who, incidentally, at this point in the Star Wars script, Lucas was calling the villain Cigarette Jones. I don't know where I'm going with this. Never mind. But
everybody,
you got the idea.
If you're listening at home, please give Tim a polite smattering of applause for that. That was good try, Tim. All right.
It helped him. It helped him learn he could replace the voice of the villain with someone else.
Well, I'm going to jump in, as you know, in response to Tim's incessant comparisons to Star Wars. I like to point out what this movie shares in common with 1986 fantasy film Labyrinth. Mm-hmm. Labyrinth had state-of-the-art puppet effects created by Jim Henson's Creation Shop. This movie did not. And that's what it had in common. Yeah, that's Satan.
One. Nice and short.
He was not state-of-the-art. Yeah, it was short. I almost feel like I like what I do with my Oz thing at the end. I think I'm going to let that stand as my sequel.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah,
really?
I think so. Yeah, because I was going that I kind of was going that my notes are lit that, and I kind of shot my load there. I tell you go first. If I can think of something different in the meantime, I'll do a quick one.
Start my music. Let's go.
All right.
So it's Scary Tober.
No, don't
George.
play this music. I hate this music.
It's Scary Tober.
Okay.
We're in it. We're leading up to Halloween. So I'm going to tell you a spooky story. So remember when this at the end of this movie, Walsh and Chris left that rotting head on the desk all night, all the next day, all the commotion that went on. And
you're right. They did. They just run out the head on the desk.
And when when Walsh finally came back to work the next day, that head had oozed and rotted, and the smell had leaked onto the table. And
Tim, you forgot it was before a long weekend, so they were actually didn't come back Saturday, Sunday, and Monday was closed because it was Arbor Day.
I forgot that part of the story. I'm glad you're here.
That was a big I helped.
So he took that head and put it in his evidence file called garbage, and he wiped off his desk, but it still stunk really bad. He washed it off and even bought some yucky, sissy, girly flowers to put on the desk, but his coworkers were like, "What died and buried itself in your pants, Walsh?" And, what a stink. Did you kill a pigeon and hide it in the file cabinet again, Walsh? And, stuff like that.
Specific.
Yes. So the next day, Walsh put the desk out on the curb and went home. When he came back to the office, the desk came back the very next day. He thought it was a goner.
The cat came back.
But the desk came back. So everyone complained.
Wait, holy shit. This episode's already going long. Are you really going to do the entirety of the cat came back?
Well, you wait and see. So everyone complained that Walsh must have vomited in his hat and hid it behind the radiator again. So, Walsh dragged that stinky desk to a truck and told the truck driver to toss it in the river. But the next day when he came to work, the desk came back. Thought it was a goner. But the desk came back the very next day. So Walsh's men went on strike. They refused to work with a man who leaves half-eaten pickles in his pockets and then hides some dead roadkill in Officer Barry's rain jacket. Well, why is that in there? So
what?
He walks over to the window. He tosses this desk out, watches it explode in the streets of Kentucky. But you know what happened the next day, George?
No.
The desk was there. The desk came back the very next day.
Oh, it couldn't stay away. The desk came back in the very next day. Thought it was a goner. Believe-a-doo-ba-doo.
So Walsh quit his job. He quit his job. He dragged the desk down the steps, out the door, took it to a bar. He got it drunk. He got it into a bar
I'm glad
fight,
this is so long.
And shoved it into the bathroom with Johnny Staberson, where it was stabbed to death.
Johnny Staberson? He's the guy who shoots people.
Then he took the desk to the slaughterhouse, where they slaughter anything for a few extra bucks. Then he thought it was the end. But once he got home to his wife, he walked into the bedroom. Guess what was there with his wife?
Oh, I can't even begin to guess, Tim.
The desk came
the
back.
Desk was there? The desk came back because the
wife explained she got it at a rummage sale and she loved it. In fact, she loved it so much she's going to marry it. And
shit, wait, twist.
Yes, twist. And we fade out in his horror-stricken face and the credits roll. The movie's called Revenge of the Desk That Came Back.
That sucks. Does she consummate her relationship with the desk in front of him?
It's not that kind of movie. In front of him. Wow.
Yeah.
She opens and shuts the drawers. And he's like, no. Well, you did your story. Then
I do have a story. It's pretty short, though. I have a new one.
Wow.
Start my music.
Okay.
It's short. So you might think this is a pretty tightly resolved movie. Not a lot of people left who want revenge. Yeah, sure, Lucina and Duncan might want revenge, but the doctor's been killed by Satan. Plus, it's also hinted that, we think that maybe Duncan is Satan, but it turns out he's not.
No.
Because Satan is the one who's left feeling butthurt after this.
Uh-huh.
We couldn't really understand him. His voice is garbled and thick and given with weird pauses and stuff. But as near as we could figure, he's mad because she wasn't pure enough. Meaning he was attaching some archaic and outdated... Oh, by the way, and because Tim is very ableist, I want to mention Satan's able to walk.
Yes.
But going back to the story, he's attaching these outdated notions. Like if a woman has had sex with a man, or really even with anyone, she's no longer has any value, except for as a baby breeder, probably.
Yes.
And he decides, like, this is a problem. This is not the first time this has happened. I need my pure sacrifices, but women these days are so promiscuous. So Satan, he takes human form.
And he wears rollerblades. Just so we talk about how people.
Why are you rooting my story for this? Why? Tell me why does Satan wear rollerblades?
So we can talk about how they move and walk. Remember?
No. What movie is that a reference to?
George, you just said you told Satan can walk. He's bipedal.
Uh-huh.
Well, now he puts on rollerblades.
Okay. So Satan puts on rollerblades, which won't make sense with the rest of the story. So just strike the record. So Satan has now taken this human form. He's monstrous because he is Satan. He's smoothed out some of the bumps, but he still has this big bubbly head on him stuff.
Are they sex bumps? Sexy bumps?
Yes, they're sex bumps. He goes, no, because his whole thing is he's against sex, Tim.
Okay.
And he's like, I need to strike a blow for the moral majority. I need to work with the uptight religious prigs of this country, and starting in this state of which I'm in, Kentucky, to make sure women only have sex to procreate after marriage. So there's plenty of them to sacrifice to be as virgins. And he starts a political career in Kentucky.
Oh.
A political career lasts for years. And that devil, do you know what his name is?
Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell. Which is why he's not a rollerblade, because Lord knows that fucking turtle can't even walk, let alone rollerblade. The end.
He used to rollerblade.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Short and sweet, and I got a dig in it. Mitch the Ditch McConnell. I call him a ditch because people throw trash in him where they should. Tim, did we get any mail this week?
No mail. It's all clogged up. Just fan mail, just clogging it up. We can't read that. It just can't read people blathering how much they love us.
How much they love us. People offering to be our best friends and to give us money.
But you can like us and love us.
Men want to be us and have sex with us. Women want to be us. It's great.
And run away from us.
Run away.
Follow us, Blue Sky and Threads and Instagram. And there's a blog where I'll draw a picture about my story. And
one of these years, I'll draw a picture too. And
if you draw a Georgia story, basically a picture of Mitch McConnell, we may post that.
In closing, we roll further into Spooky-tober, and we're continuing our our tour of the 50 Nifty. Tim, I mostly go alphabetical, as you know. The next one is Louisiana. We are holding out hope. We're not doing Louisiana now, and I'm asking you don't do Louisiana, Tim.
All right.
Because we were hoping the aforementioned Jack Weiss.
Screwed me on New York. Okay.
But we want to do the Jack Weiss.
Right.
And we're hoping to do the movie Storyville, which is currently mostly lost. If you're a listener and have access to the 1974 masterpiece by Jack Weiss, Storyville, starring the son of Mickey Rooney. Not Mickey Rooney. Andy Rooney? Wait, who was the guy? It is Mickey Rooney.
It was Mickey. Andy's
the guy in the wrestler.
Minutes.
That's Mickey Rourke. Yeah. Please, for the love of God, let us know, because otherwise we're going to stuck doing that other movie of his on YouTube. That one's probably problematic.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm moving to Maine, and the movie we're doing, it's available on Tubi. It is Night of the Living Deb.
Oh,
not dead, Deb.
Let me guess. Is this from the 2000s?
Oh, Tim, 2015.
Oof. They're alive again, George.
They're alive again. That's worked out well for us.
I don't like when they're alive.
I like when they're alive because I like the idea that they would see this. Because then, actually, I'll tell you, Tim, this is a movie I've seen before.
Uh-oh.
It's filmed in Portland, Maine, which is a beautiful city, and it's a place I like a lot. And it is a musical.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Zombie musical.
All right. Better be some good songs.
It's going to be great.
It's not scary.
No, it's scary.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Those are musical episodes of Star Trek. So, did you know that? Strange New Worlds? No. I just have to do a Star Trek podcast. You don't know that, do you?
Strange New Worlds the cartoon one?
No. It's the crew before Kirk. Captain Pike, the one that ends up in the wheelchair and has a light that says beep. Yes, beep,
the one
beep,
who
no.
I met the actor that plays him.
So, all right. Like us and love us.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about Star Trek. Let's
I will if
someday.
you could find a Star Trek movie that was shot in a spot that matches our purview, let's do it.
No. Anyway,
come on, it'd be fun. Yeah,
I
think they're all filmed in New Jersey.
Like us, love us, all the socials, and thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
And if we could mean something to one person out there, don't give up. Don't give up. That's my advice.
Okay. Yes.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
This has been a Pity Party Line production.
Party line, it's a party line.
Yep.
It's an episode.
There's an episode of Glee.
The Henchman.
Glee, where's the musical?
Not the Henkels.
Trying to mention that monkey movie.
The
monkey
Henkels
TV
who
show
had
you
the three
mentioned?
detective monkeys. There was a musical episode of that one too. Yeah.
I don't think it was called the Heckles.
They
Tim.
say.
Tim, I'm going to throw a challenge out to you. Tim, if you're going to make a reference, get the reference right.
I don't know what that show is called.
Folks, Tim is referencing a weird thing